The twin suns of Zithra shone brightly over the city of Varela, casting golden light across the towering crystal spires and smooth metallic walkways. The air buzzed with the energy of a civilization at the peak of its power. Citizens moved quickly but gracefully, their iridescent skin shimmering in the sunlight. Today was special. Today, Queen Lysara, the fierce and wise ruler of Zithra, would host the grand ceremony of innovation, celebrating the latest inventions and achievements of their people. Queen Lysara was a figure of awe. Her height alone commanded respect, but it was her presence, the way she moved with confidence, her eyes sharp and unyielding, that made her feared across many galaxies. She had led her people through countless battles, forged alliances, and brought unmatched prosperity to Zithra. But beneath her formidable exterior, she loved her daughter, Princess Kyla, with all her heart. Kayla was very different from her mother. While Lysara was serious, disciplined, and sometimes intimidating, Kyla was gentle, curious, and full of wonder about the universe around her. The ceremony was held in the Sky Dome, a vast structure of translucent crystal that reflected the twin suns and the floating city below. Citizens and dignitaries from other planets gathered to witness the event. Kayla, dressed in a soft violet tunic, floated through the crowd, her large expressive eyes taking in everything. Her small hands reached out to touch hovering displays and glowing machines, fascinated by every detail. "Stay close to me, Kayla," her mother said firmly, her voice cutting through the hum of conversation. Lysara's eyes scanned the crowd, ever watchful. "There are many important guests here. You must not wander off." "Yes, mother," Kayla replied, though her gaze was already drawn to a small, shimmering creature darting through the display lights. The creature was tiny, no bigger than her hand, with wings that reflected the colors of Zithra's sky. Kayla's heart raced with excitement. She had never seen anything like it before. Before Lysara could notice, Kyla slipped away, her small figure moving silently through the crowd, chasing the creature. She giggled softly, the sound like wind chimes. The creature led her toward the upper gardens of the Sky Dome, a place usually off-limits to visitors. The gardens were a beautiful maze of alien plants, glowing flowers, and tall vines that seemed to sway even without wind. Kayla loved this hidden place. It was peaceful and quiet, unlike the bustling ceremony below. Meanwhile, the palace guards, including Riven, Lysara's most trusted protector, were patrolling the perimeter. Riven was tall and strong, with sharp features and piercing eyes that missed nothing. His loyalty to the queen was absolute, and he had spent years protecting Kyla from both dangers seen and unseen. Today he felt uneasy. There was a strange energy in the air, something subtle but not quite right. As Kayla chased the glowing creature deeper into the garden, she failed to notice how far she had gone. The flowers seemed to lean toward her as if welcoming her presence, but the shadows grew longer, stretching across the stone paths. The creature finally landed on a tall vine, fluttering its wings. Kayla reached out to touch it, and the vine trembled. Suddenly she slipped, her foot catching on a root, and she stumbled into a small hollow surrounded by thick foliage. Kayla's heart beat fast. She was not hurt, but she realized she was alone. The sounds of the ceremony below were faint, almost distant. Fear crept in, but she remembered what her mother had always taught her. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to act despite it. Kayla took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. Back on the main floor, Queen Lysara noticed her daughter was missing. Her sharp eyes scanned the crowd and her lips pressed into a thin line.
"She did not panic, not yet."
Instead, she called out to Riven. "Riven! Find Kayla now." Riven's eyes narrowed. "Yes, Your Majesty." Without a word, he leaped into motion, moving swiftly through the crowd and toward the gardens. His steps were silent but fast, each movement precise. He could feel the faint energy signature Kayla left behind, almost like a trail of light only he could sense. Kayla, meanwhile, had found a small alcove surrounded by glowing vines. The creature she had been chasing hovered near her, its tiny wings creating a soft humming sound. She smiled softly, kneeling to observe it. She felt a strange sense of calm despite her fear. "I'm not alone," she whispered to herself. And in that moment, she felt the presence of someone she trusted more than anyone else. Riven. Riven moved cautiously through the garden, aware of every step. He knew this place well, but the energy traces of Kayla led him into areas even he rarely explored. As he approached the alcove, he saw her small form curled up among the glowing vines. Kayla had fallen asleep, exhaustion overcoming her excitement. Her small hands rested near the creature, which now perched safely on a vine above her. Riven approached quietly, careful not to startle her. He knelt beside her and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Princess Kayla," he whispered softly. "It is time to return." Kayla stirred, blinking her large eyes open. At first, she looked confused, then relief spread across her face. "Riven, you found me!" she exclaimed, her voice a mixture of joy and fear. "Of course," he replied, offering her a reassuring smile. "You must not wander off like this again. It is dangerous." Kayla nodded solemnly, realizing the seriousness of the situation. "I wanted to see the creature," she said softly, almost as if apologizing. Riven chuckled quietly. "Curiosity is good, Princess, but sometimes we must be careful where it leads us." He lifted her gently in his strong arms, holding her close. Kayla felt safe, the fear melting away. For a moment she rested her head against his shoulder, feeling comforted by his presence. Unbeknownst to them, a faint shadow watched from the edge of the garden. A figure, small and sleek, observed the interaction between Riven and Kayla, its intentions unclear. Though no threat was immediate, Riven sensed it, a subtle shift in the energy around them. He adjusted his grip on Kayla and moved toward the exit, determined to return her safely to her mother. As they approached the main hall, the sounds of the ceremony grew louder. Lysara waited at the entrance, her arms crossed and eyes fixed on her daughter. Relief and sternness mixed in her expression. "Kayla," she said firmly, "you must listen. The world can be dangerous, and even the smallest mistake can lead to disaster." Kayla looked up at her mother, her eyes wide with understanding. "I understand, Mother. I will be more careful." Riven set her down gently, remaining close to ensure she was safe. Lysara's gaze softened slightly as she looked at her daughter. Though her daughter was young, Lysara realized that Kayla had courage, curiosity, and a kind heart, qualities that would one day make her a great leader. The ceremony resumed, and the guests watched in admiration as the queen and her daughter rejoined the event. But beneath the surface, something stirred. A quiet, hidden energy that hinted at future challenges, adventures, and discoveries. Kayla's small act of curiosity had reminded everyone that even the fiercest rulers must respect the strength and spirit of the next generation. Riven remained by Kayla's side, silent but vigilant. He knew that this was only the beginning. The world was vast, full of wonders and dangers alike, and Princess Kayla, with her fearless curiosity, was destined to face both. The twin suns of Zithra began to set, casting long shadows over the sky dome. Kayla watched the colors change in awe, feeling the warmth of Riven's presence beside her. She whispered softly to herself, "I want to learn everything." And Riven, ever watchful, knew that he would protect her, guide her, and help her discover the strength within herself. For in the heart of Zithra, amidst crystal towers and glowing gardens, a bond had formed, a bond of trust, courage, and the beginnings of an extraordinary journey. The next morning, the sky dome was quiet and peaceful. The twin suns rose slowly over the crystal towers, casting soft light over the gardens and walkways. Princess Kayla woke early, her violet eyes bright and curious. The events of the previous day had left her with a mixture of excitement and worry. She remembered slipping into the hidden garden, chasing the small glowing creature, and being rescued by Riven. Though she had been frightened at first, she felt a strange warmth from being in his care. Riven, as always, was already awake. He had spent the early hours inspecting the palace grounds, making sure no new dangers had appeared overnight. He moved silently through the corridors, careful not to disturb anyone, his eyes scanning every corner. Even though Kayla had been safe, he felt a lingering unease. The palace, for all its beauty, was a place full of secrets, hidden paths, and unknown threats. And he had learned long ago that even the smallest mistake could have serious consequences. As Kayla left her chamber, she noticed Riven waiting near the entrance. His posture was calm, but his eyes held a sharp alertness. Kayla ran toward him, her small steps light and quick. "Riven, good morning," she said cheerfully. "Good morning, Princess," he replied, bowing slightly. "I see you are ready for the day." Kayla nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, can we go back to the gardens? I want to see the glowing creatures again." She looked up at him with hopeful eyes. Riven hesitated for a moment. He knew the gardens could be dangerous for an unsupervised young princess. But he also understood her curiosity. Her mind was bright and always seeking to explore. Finally, he spoke softly. "We can go, but only if we remain cautious. You must stay close to me at all times." Kayla's face lit up with a smile. "I promise, Riven." Together, they moved toward the hidden garden, walking through corridors that wound between crystal towers and glowing pools. As they entered the garden, Kayla marveled at the morning light reflecting off the flowers and vines. The air was filled with the scent of alien blossoms, and small creatures flitted among the leaves. Kayla's eyes sparkled with wonder. "Look, Riven, they are so beautiful," she exclaimed, pointing toward a group of tiny glowing creatures dancing in the sunlight. Riven smiled quietly. "Yes, Princess. Nature always holds surprises for those who look carefully." Kayla knelt beside a small stream that ran through the garden, watching the reflection of the creatures in the water. "Riven," she asked softly, "were you ever afraid when you saved me yesterday?" Riven looked at her carefully. The question was simple, but the thought behind it showed Kayla's understanding and maturity. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but when I am responsible for someone, I focus on keeping them safe. Fear must not control us." Kayla nodded thoughtfully. "I want to be brave like you one day." Riven's eyes softened. "You are brave already, Princess. Bravery is not only about fighting or running into danger. It is also about being kind, learning, and helping others. You show bravery every day by being curious and caring." Kayla smiled, feeling proud. She reached out to touch one of the small glowing creatures which hovered near her hand. It seemed to recognize her gentle touch and twinkled softly in response. As they spent the morning exploring, Kayla shared her dreams with Riven. She wanted to learn about every corner of Zithra, understand its technology, and meet people from other worlds. Riven listened patiently, offering advice and guidance, helping her see the connection between curiosity and responsibility. Suddenly, Riven's sharp senses detected movement near the edge of the garden. He stiffened, placing himself slightly between Kayla and the unknown presence. Kayla noticed the change and looked at him with concern. "Riven, is something wrong?" Riven's eyes scanned the shadows. "Perhaps." "Stay close to me, Princess." From behind a cluster of glowing vines, a small alien creature peeked at them. Unlike the harmless creatures Kayla had been chasing, this one had a metallic sheen and moved with precision, almost as if it were observing them rather than playing. Kayla took a cautious step back, but Riven gently held her hand. "It is not a threat," he said softly. "Just curious like you." Kayla relaxed, watching as the creature disappeared into the foliage. "I think it was trying to learn about us," she said thoughtfully. "Just like I learn about everything around me." Riven nodded. "Yes, Princess. Knowledge is important, but so is caution. We must always be aware of our surroundings." For the next several hours, Kayla and Riven moved quietly through the garden, exploring its hidden paths, observing creatures, and learning about plants that glowed, sang, or reacted to touch. Kayla's excitement and curiosity were infectious, and even Riven found himself marveling at the beauty and complexity of the garden. As the sun climbed higher, they came upon a secluded alcove where a small waterfall cascaded into a crystal-clear pool. Kayla knelt at the edge, dipping her hands into the cool water. "Riven," she said, "do you think there are other worlds like Zithra?" Riven smiled faintly. "Many, Princess. Some are similar and some are very different. But every world has its own challenges and lessons. The key is to respect what you find and learn from it." Kayla considered his words carefully. "I want to visit them one day, to see and learn everything I can." Riven looked at her, impressed by her determination. "And you will, Princess. But first you must master your own world. Only then will you be ready to explore the stars." Kayla nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose. She realized that courage, knowledge, and compassion were all connected. Her mother had taught her rules and discipline, but Riven was teaching her wisdom through experience. She felt safe, happy, and inspired. As they prepared to leave the garden, Kayla paused and looked at Riven. "Thank you for keeping me safe yesterday," she said sincerely. Riven bent slightly, meeting her gaze. "It is my duty and my honor, Princess. But more than that, it is a joy to see you grow and learn. You remind me why I serve this palace, this queen, and this world." Kayla smiled, feeling a deep bond forming between them. It was a bond built on trust, care, and mutual respect. She realized that Riven was more than just a protector. He was a guide, a teacher, and a friend. As they returned to the palace halls, the sounds of preparation for the next day's events filled the air. Kayla's mind was alive with ideas, questions, and dreams. She knew that life in Zythera was full of challenges, but with Riven by her side, she felt ready to face them. That evening, as the twin suns set and the city lights began to glow, Kayla reflected on the day. She had explored, learned, and discovered a new sense of courage within herself, and she knew that tomorrow would bring new lessons, new adventures, and perhaps new surprises. Riven watched over her silently, his mind alert for any danger but his heart quietly proud. He understood that Princess Kayla was growing into a remarkable individual. She was brave, kind, and curious, the very qualities that would one day make her a great leader. Just as her mother hoped, as the palace settled into quiet, Kayla fell asleep, dreaming of glowing creatures, distant stars, and the adventures that awaited her. Riven remained nearby, a vigilant guardian, knowing that their journey together was only beginning. In the heart of Zythera, amidst crystal towers and radiant gardens, a bond had formed that would guide them through the challenges of the future. For Kayla and Riven, the world was wide and full of wonders, and together they would discover it, face it, and protect it, building a legacy of courage, wisdom, and hope for all who lived under the twin suns of Zythera. The morning light spilled over Zythera's city of Virella once again, casting sparkling reflections across the crystal towers. The palace was alive with activity. Workers prepared the halls for a council of dignitaries from nearby star systems, while palace guards moved through corridors, scanning for any threats. Princess Kayla rose early, her violet eyes bright with curiosity. Yesterday's adventure in the gardens had awakened something new in her. She felt a desire to learn, to explore, and to grow beyond the palace walls. But she also remembered her mother's warning. Zythera, for all its beauty, could be dangerous. Riven appeared outside her chamber, as always. His eyes were calm, but the faint crease on his brow showed he had sensed a subtle change in the palace energy overnight. "Good morning, Princess," he said. "Today you will learn something important. Are you ready?" Kayla's face lit up. "Yes, Riven." "What will we do today?" Riven extended his hand. "Today we will train, not in fighting but in awareness, observation, and survival skills. These are just as important as strength. Every leader must know how to protect herself and her people." Kayla's excitement was immediate. She had always admired Riven's skills and his quiet confidence. "I'm ready. Teach me everything." They moved into a private training area in the upper gardens, a place where shadows, rocks, and foliage created an ideal environment for learning stealth and observation. Riven began with simple exercises, noticing hidden objects, following sounds, and understanding energy signatures, the faint traces left by creatures or people as they moved. At first, Kayla struggled. She often got distracted by the bright flowers, small animals, and glowing insects. But Riven was patient. He encouraged her to focus, to trust her instincts, and to notice the patterns in her surroundings. "Princess," he said softly, "awareness is the first step. You must know what is around you before you can act. Everything you see, hear, or sense can help you stay safe." Kayla nodded determinedly. She practiced carefully, observing a small glowing bird as it flew through the foliage. She followed its movements, predicting where it would land next. Each time she succeeded, her confidence grew. By midday, Kayla had improved significantly. She could sense the energy trails of creatures in the garden, and even spot subtle movements that Riven had not immediately noticed. She beamed at him. "I did it." "Did you see, Riven?" Riven smiled faintly, pride in his eyes. "Yes, Princess. You are learning quickly. But remember, learning is a journey, not a race. Patience and caution are just as important as skill." Just then, the palace alert system chimed softly, a signal that someone had entered the restricted areas of the palace. Riven's eyes narrowed. "Stay here, Princess. This may be important." Kayla's heart skipped a beat. "Riven, should I hide?" He shook his head gently. "No, you must stay calm and observe. Courage is not only about fighting. It is also about seeing clearly and making the right choices." Together they moved quietly through the garden paths toward the palace's inner perimeter. From a hidden vantage point, Riven observed a group of cloaked figures moving among the palace's outer walls. They carried devices that glowed faintly, scanning the area as they moved. Kayla watched, her pulse quickening. They are not palace guards, Riven whispered. They are outsiders. Likely spies. Kayla's eyes widened. What do we do? We observe first, Riven replied. Then we decide. Acting without knowledge can be dangerous. Kayla nodded, gripping Riven's hand for reassurance. She realized that courage also meant patience. Together they watched as the intruders moved silently through the garden, their devices scanning the plants and walls. Suddenly, one of the figures stopped near a cluster of glowing vines. Its device began to hum loudly, attracting attention. Kayla felt a surge of fear, but she also felt determination. She had learned to notice patterns, and now she used that skill. Riven whispered, Kayla, can you see how they are moving? Can you predict their next step? Kayla studied them carefully. Yes, she said softly. They will go toward the water pool. They are trying to locate something hidden there. Riven's eyes widened slightly. Good observation, Princess. Now we must act. Carefully. Using the knowledge Kayla had gained, Riven and she moved along a hidden path, staying in the shadows. They positioned themselves near the waterfall alcove where the intruders were heading. The glowing water reflected the sunlight, creating illusions that made it difficult for the outsiders to notice the two of them. Kayla felt her heart pounding. This was the first real challenge she had faced since wandering the gardens. She glanced at Riven, who gave her a reassuring nod. Courage, she realized, was not the absence of fear. It was acting despite fear. As the intruders reached the water, Riven stepped forward, his voice low but firm. Stop, you have no permission to be here. The intruders froze, startled. Their devices hummed loudly, but they did not attack. Riven's presence alone, combined with Kayla's keen observation, made them hesitate. Kayla stepped slightly forward, her small hand raised. Please, you should leave, she said softly but firmly. This is a palace. It is protected. You are not welcome here. One of the intruders whispered something to the others, and they exchanged glances. Riven noticed hesitation. They had not expected resistance from anyone, much less a young princess. Kayla's courage and clarity had made a difference. Seeing an opening, Riven advanced cautiously, guiding the intruders away from the inner gardens. Kayla followed closely, observing every movement and learning how small actions could influence outcomes. Together they managed to drive the intruders back toward the perimeter, where palace security forces intercepted them. The intruders were captured without violence. Palace officials were astonished. How did a young princess and her guard manage this? One whispered. Kayla looked up at Riven, pride and excitement glowing on her face. We watched carefully and acted with courage, she said simply. Riven smiled, proud but serious. Yes, Princess. Courage, awareness, and wisdom. That is the true power of a leader. Later, as the palace returned to normal, Kayla reflected on the events of the day. She had faced real danger, observed threats, and acted with intelligence and bravery. She realized that the lessons she was learning with Riven were not just about survival. They were about responsibility, leadership, and the power of careful thinking. That evening, Queen Lysara returned from her meetings with the council. She noticed Kayla's bright eyes and confident posture. You have grown, Kayla, she said softly, though her tone was still firm. I see that Riven is teaching you well, but remember, strength alone is not enough. Wisdom and caution must guide every choice, Kayla nodded. I understand, Mother. Today I learned how to observe, think, and act carefully. I want to be ready to help protect our people. Lysara's eyes softened slightly. She realized that her daughter was not just playful or curious. Kayla was brave, intelligent, and capable. Perhaps one day she would become the leader Zithara needed. Riven stood silently nearby, watching the exchange. He knew that Kayla's journey was only beginning. Today's challenge had shown her courage, but tomorrow would bring even greater tests, and he would be there guiding her, protecting her, and helping her grow into the strong, wise leader she was destined to become. As night fell over Zithara, the twin suns dipping below the horizon, Kayla sat by her window looking out over the city. The lights shimmered like stars, and the air was filled with a sense of calm and possibility. She whispered to herself, I want to learn everything, and be brave like Riven. Riven, standing nearby in the shadows, nodded silently. He understood. Kayla was learning fast, and her heart was strong. Together they would face the challenges of Zithara, protect its people, and discover the true meaning of courage, loyalty, and hope. In the quiet palace, Amidst crystal towers and glowing gardens, a bond had deepened. Princess Kayla and Riven were no longer simply guardian and child. They were partners in learning, courage, and protection. And as the stars appeared in the sky above Zithra, both of them knew that adventures, challenges, and discoveries awaited them in the days to come. The palace of Zithra had returned to its usual rhythm. Courtyards echoed with footsteps. Crystal towers gleamed in the sunlight, and the air hummed with the quiet energy of invention and discovery. But a subtle tension lingered beneath the surface, one that only a few could sense. Princess Kayla awoke early, her mind still buzzing from the previous day's lessons with Riven. She had learned about observation, awareness, and courage, and now she wanted to test herself further. Today she was determined to explore more of the palace grounds, but this time with a sharper eye, noticing not only beauty but also anything unusual. Riven met her outside her chamber. His expression was serious. "Princess, today we will go beyond the gardens. We will explore parts of the palace that few ever see, but you must be careful. Not all is as it seems." Kyla's eyes widened with excitement. "I'm ready. I want to see everything." Riven nodded and led her through corridors that twisted and turned like a labyrinth. These were corridors meant for palace staff and security, rarely used by the public. Glowing panels lit their path, and the soft hum of machinery accompanied their footsteps. Kayla noticed everything: the pattern of the lights, the small markings on walls, and the faint traces of energy left behind by recent visitors. "You see, Princess," Riven said softly, "even in familiar places things can change. A careful eye notices small differences. That is how danger is often detected." Kayla nodded thoughtfully. She began pointing out small details: a scratch on a railing, faint footprints in a dust-free corner, and subtle changes in the energy signature of a room. Riven was impressed. Her observational skills were improving quickly, and her mind was sharp and alert. As they moved deeper into a restricted wing of the palace, Kayla noticed something unusual: a small, faint glow coming from a side chamber that was supposed to be empty. "Riven," she whispered, "look, that room. It shouldn't be glowing." Riven approached cautiously, scanning the area. "You are correct, Princess. That room is off limits. We need to investigate carefully." Together they entered the chamber. Inside they found a strange device humming with a soft energy pulse. It was unlike anything Kayla had seen before, even in the palace's extensive collection of inventions. Small drones hovered around it, scanning the area. "This is a surveillance device," Riven said quietly. "Someone is watching the palace, studying our movements." "This is very serious." Kayla's heart raced. "Who would do this? And why?" Riven shook his head. "I don't know yet, but we must act carefully. If anyone discovers that we are aware, they may try to strike quickly." Kayla looked at the device and then at the small drones. "Can we stop it, Riven?" He considered for a moment. "We can disable it, but we must do so without leaving traces. You will need to help me observe, predict, and act at the right moment. Are you ready for that?" Kayla nodded firmly. "Yes, I am ready." Riven smiled faintly. "Good. Let's begin." They studied the device carefully, noting its energy patterns and the movements of the drones. Kayla suggested subtle maneuvers to distract the drones, while Riven approached the device cautiously. Using precise movements, he disabled the power source, causing the drones to shut down silently. The room fell quiet, the humming ceased, and the strange glow faded. Kayla let out a small sigh of relief. "We did it," she whispered. "Yes," Riven replied, "but this is only the beginning. Whoever set this up is clever and patient. They may have other devices hidden in the palace. We must find them before they strike." Kayla's mind raced. She realized that protecting the palace was not just about strength. It required intelligence, observation, and quick thinking. And she felt proud that she could contribute. As they left the chamber, Riven reminded her, "Princess, bravery is important, but wisdom is even more important. Acting without thinking can be dangerous. Today you have shown both." Kayla nodded, feeling a new sense of confidence. She was no longer just the curious princess wandering the gardens. She was becoming a protector, a thinker, and a problem solver. They moved quietly through the palace, checking corridors, side rooms, and storage areas. Everywhere they went, Kayla pointed out small details, noting energy shifts and faint traces of movement. Her skills had grown remarkably in just a few days. As they returned to the main hall, a sudden alarm echoed through the palace. Lights flashed red and a warning message scrolled across the crystalline panels. Intruders detected in the lower wing. Riven's eyes narrowed. Stay close to me, Princess. This may be the real test. Kayla gripped his hand, her pulse quickening. What should we do? Riven replied calmly. Observe first, then act. You have learned how to notice patterns, predict movements, and respond. Now is the time to use that knowledge. They moved silently toward the lower wing, following the faint energy traces left by the intruders. As they approached, Kayla noticed 3 figures trying to bypass a security door. They carried small devices similar to the one they had disabled earlier. They are trying to steal something, Kayla whispered. I can feel it, Riven nodded. Good observation. We must stop them without causing alarm. If the Queen or other guards notice too soon, the intruders may panic and escape. Kayla took a deep breath. I'm ready. Using what she had learned, Kayla signaled Riven to approach from one side while she distracted the intruders with a small reflection of light using a polished panel. The intruders turned toward the light, giving Riven the opportunity to disable their devices silently. Kayla's quick thinking had created the perfect distraction. Riven moved swiftly, disabling the intruders' equipment and guiding them toward a secure holding area. Kayla followed closely, observing everything. Her heart pounded, but she felt a strange thrill. This was her first real test of courage and skill. Once the intruders were secured, Riven turned to Kayla. You were excellent, Princess. Your observations, predictions, and quick thinking made all the difference. Kayla's eyes shone with pride. I couldn't have done it without you, Riven. Riven smiled faintly. You are learning fast. But remember, this is just the beginning. There will be more challenges, and each will require courage, wisdom, and care. Later, they returned to the palace gardens to rest. Kayla sat by the waterfall, watching the water flow, reflecting on what had happened. She realized that bravery was more than facing danger. It was thinking clearly, acting wisely, and staying calm under pressure. Riven sat beside her, silent for a moment, then spoke. Princess, today you learned the most important lesson. True courage is the combination of heart and mind. Strength alone is not enough. A leader must observe, understand, and act wisely. Kayla nodded thoughtfully. I understand, Riven. I want to keep learning. I want to protect the palace and our people. Riven's eyes softened. And you will, Princess. You have the heart, the mind, and the courage. Together we will face whatever challenges come, and you will grow stronger every day. As night fell over Zithra, the twin suns dipping below the horizon, the palace lights shimmered like stars. Kayla stood by her window looking out at the city below. She felt a sense of purpose growing inside her, a desire to learn, to grow, and to become a leader worthy of her mother and her people. Riven watched from the shadows, ever vigilant. He knew that the palace was safe for now, but threats would always come. Yet he also knew that Princess Kayla had begun to grow into her role as a protector, a thinker, and a future leader. The events of the day had shown her courage, wisdom, and quick thinking. They had also revealed that the palace, though magnificent, was a place full of secrets, challenges, and potential dangers. But with careful observation, intelligence, and courage, Kayla could face them and even excel. In the quiet of the palace gardens, amidst the glowing plants and shimmering water, a bond between Princess Kayla and Riven deepened. They were no longer simply protector and princess, they were partners in courage, learning, and discovery. And as the stars of Zithra twinkled in the sky, both of them knew that the days ahead would bring new challenges, adventures, and lessons. But together they would face them, and they would emerge stronger, wiser, and braver than ever before. For Princess Kayla, the journey of growth, courage, and leadership was only beginning. And with Riven by her side, she was ready to meet the future, whatever it might hold. The sun rose over Zithra, its twin rays spilling across the crystal towers of Virella. The city shimmered like a jewel, reflecting a civilization that thrived on intelligence, courage, and innovation. Inside the palace, Princess Kayla was already awake, her violet eyes bright with anticipation. Today felt different, more important. She had learned so much over the past days, and a sense of responsibility weighed on her young shoulders. Riven appeared outside her chamber, as always, his expression calm but serious. Princess, he said softly, today may bring a challenge unlike any before. You have grown stronger and wiser, but you must remain alert. Are you ready? Kayla nodded firmly. Yes, Riven, I want to do my best. The palace was bustling more than usual. Queen Lysara had summoned all her advisors, inventors, and security officers for a special assembly in the Sky Dome. Kayla could feel the tension in the air. Something important was about to happen. She followed Riven quietly as he guided her through corridors lined with glowing panels and reflective floors. As they reached the Sky Dome, Kayla saw her mother standing tall and regal, her gaze sweeping over the gathered crowd. "Princess Kayla," Lysara said, her voice carrying across the dome, "you have been present during a time of great challenge. Today you will witness not just the strength of your palace, but the courage that lives within you." Kayla's heart raced. She did not fully understand what the queen meant, but she felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. She glanced at Riven, who gave her a subtle nod of reassurance. Suddenly, the security system flashed with an alert. A group of intruders had been detected near the outer walls, attempting to bypass the palace defenses. They were more organized and determined than the previous intruders Kayla had helped Riven handle. This was the true test. Riven bent down and whispered, "Princess, stay close. Observe, learn, and help me make decisions. You have the skills, you just need to trust yourself." Kayla nodded. Her mind raced, remembering everything she had learned. Observation, awareness, patience, and courage. She took a deep breath, focusing on the energy patterns of the intruders and their movements. Together they moved swiftly through hidden corridors, avoiding the intruders' sensors. Kayla noticed details that Riven could not. Faint reflections of their devices in the polished floors, subtle disturbances in the air from their movement, and small vibrations in the walls. Using her observations, Riven was able to guide her silently around the intruders, positioning them for the perfect intervention. "This way," Kayla whispered, pointing toward a side exit where the intruders would pass. "We can corner them without being seen. They will have no choice but to stop." Riven followed her lead. "Excellent, Princess. You have predicted their movement correctly." As the intruders approached the exit, Riven stepped forward, his voice firm and commanding. "Stop. You are not welcome here." The intruders froze, startled by his presence, but Kayla noticed one of them attempting to bypass him with a small energy device. Thinking quickly, she triggered a reflective panel, sending a burst of light toward the intruder's eyes. He stumbled, giving Riven the opportunity to disable the device and guide them toward a secure holding area. The assembly in the Sky Dome watched in amazement as the intruders were neutralized without violence. Kayla's careful observation and quick thinking had played a crucial role in their capture. Even the palace guards, seasoned and experienced, were impressed by the young princess's insight and courage. Queen Lysara approached Kayla and Riven, her eyes scanning the situation with a mixture of sternness and pride. "Princess Kayla," she said, her voice carrying authority and warmth, "you have acted with intelligence, courage, and wisdom. I am proud of the decisions you made. You have shown that true strength lies not only in physical ability, but in the heart and mind." Kayla's cheeks flushed with pride. "Thank you, Mother. I only did what I thought was right." Riven stepped back, silently proud. He had watched Kayla grow from a curious, playful girl into a brave and capable young leader. Today, she had proven her abilities to everyone, including the Queen. The Queen turned to the assembly. "Let this be a lesson to all. Courage, intelligence, and careful observation can overcome even the most organized threats. And sometimes the greatest strength comes from those we least expect, our youth, our curiosity, and our determination." The crowd erupted in applause. Kayla looked at Riven, her eyes shining. He smiled faintly, a silent acknowledgement of her growth and bravery. After the assembly, Queen Lysara led Kayla to a private chamber. "Kayla," she said softly, "you have learned quickly. You have courage, wisdom, and a keen mind. These are the qualities of a true leader. I have always feared for your safety, but now I see that you are capable of more than I ever imagined." Kayla's eyes filled with determination. "Mother, I want to learn everything. I want to help protect Zithra and our people." Lysara's gaze softened. "And you will, my daughter. But remember, leadership is not only about courage. It is also about responsibility, compassion, and understanding. You have begun well, but there is much more to learn." Riven remained nearby, watching the exchange. He knew that Kayla's growth had reached a turning point. She had proven herself in the face of danger, and her bond with him had strengthened through trust, learning, and courage. Later that evening, Kayla and Riven returned to the palace gardens. The twin suns had set and the sky glowed with stars. Kayla looked around at the glowing flowers, the shimmering pools, and the peaceful pathways. "Riven," she said softly. "Today I learned that courage is not just about facing danger. It is about thinking, observing, and helping others. It is about using what you have learned wisely." Riven nodded. "Yes, Princess. You have grown in many ways. Today you showed that even a young leader can make a difference. You acted with wisdom, heart, and bravery. These are the qualities that will guide you through life." Kayla smiled, feeling a sense of purpose and pride. "I want to keep learning and growing. I want to help protect our people just like you and Mother." Riven looked at her, silent for a moment, then spoke. "And you will, Princess. You have the courage, the mind, and the heart. I will be by your side to guide and protect you, but remember, your own strength and wisdom will guide you even more." Kayla's eyes shone with determination. She realized that she was no longer just a curious child. She was becoming a protector, a thinker, and a future leader of Zithera. Her journey had begun, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the night deepened, the palace rested in quiet. The citizens of Zithera slept peacefully, unaware of the dangers that had been prevented by a small princess and her loyal guard. But within the walls of the palace, Kayla and Riven knew that vigilance, courage, and wisdom were essential. Together they had faced challenges, learned lessons, and grown stronger. Queen Lysara, watching from her chambers, felt a mixture of pride and relief. Her daughter was growing into a remarkable young leader, capable of thinking, acting, and protecting. And she knew that with guidance, courage, and the right lessons, Kayla would one day surpass even her own expectations. Kayla, standing in the garden, looked up at the stars. She whispered softly to herself, "I will learn everything. I will protect my people. I will be brave." Riven, standing beside her, nodded silently. He knew that she had truly grown. She had faced danger, used her mind and heart, and learned to act wisely. And now she was ready for the future, a future filled with challenges, discoveries, and the chance to lead with courage and compassion. In the heart of Zithera, amidst glowing gardens and crystal towers, Princess Kayla had proven herself. She had learned, grown, and faced real danger with bravery and wisdom, and as the twin suns prepared to rise again, both she and Riven knew that the journey ahead would be full of adventure, learning, and opportunities to shine. Together, they had built a bond of trust, courage, and knowledge, and together they would face whatever the future held, ready, strong, and determined. For Princess Kayla, the lessons of courage, observation, and wisdom were no longer just ideas. They were a part of her. And with Riven by her side, she was ready to become the leader Zithera needed, brave, wise, and full of heart.